Welcome, everybody, to the Purposeful You Summit. I am so grateful that you are here today. If you're tuning in, it's because the name of the summit kind of probably created a little tinge in you. Like me, I have been really intrigued by the topic of purpose. A couple of years ago, when I turned 50, I started to really think about, am I living the life that I'm meant to be living? I started to wonder if I was doing the thing that I was meant to be doing. Fast forward, I got laid off for the pandemic and I started to build a business. As I started to build a business and grow that little desire and tinge in my heart into what I am doing now, I realized that you find your purpose. But there are so many other different things that go into that finding your purpose, living in your purpose, and then using your purpose to make an impact on the world. I started to do some research on what others thought about purpose. And what I found is that everybody has some similar experiences, but also the concept of purpose is common to all of us. It is something that we look for, at times we forget about, and many times brings us back to the type of life that we envisioned for ourselves. I've been doing research for my book, Purposeful You, but more importantly, I've also been connecting with incredible people from around the world, and I have been touched by their stories, their journeys, and for that reason, I decided to host an event so that it's not just me hearing these incredible speakers, but that you also can hear about what is purpose. Why do we seek it? How do we live in it? How do we find it? So here we are. Today, in this Purposeful You Summit, I bring to you 8 different panels that will inspire you, motivate you, and help you live the life you dream of confidently. So buckle up, let's get ready, and let's start off with our first panel. Welcome to Purposeful You. I'm thrilled to have you here, my friend. And like you've heard, this is a summit for you and me. I've assembled some incredible speakers, especially for this first panel. I know a lot of these women very up close. They are phenomenal, and they are here to bring you an incredible lesson and stories of lessons in finding your purpose. So stay close, stay tuned, and put in the chat, what are some of the takeaways that you have from this panel? The panelists joining us for panel 1 include Amy and Nancy Harrington. They are creating a sisterhood. They are the Passionistas Project. We also have Karsta Marie Heard. She is telling you that fine is not good enough. We also have the incomparable Lauren Best helping you provoke possibilities. Nicole Fredericks Jackson. Wow. Nicole shares a very close to her heart story about where she's been. She's a lawyer, a doctor in leadership, and you must tune in. We have Luz Nazario, a seasoned educator who is now teaching us the lessons that she learned from doing the best in trying to solve a problem. And of course, we cannot forget Alexa Wilkes. She is so young and yet so insightful. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget, this panel will be a place to discover and find the transformative information and stories from our speakers. Whether you're searching for a career or you are looking to grow as an entrepreneur, this panel is for you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks to Julie DeLucca-Collins for asking us to be a part of the incredible Purposeful You Summit. We're Amy and Nancy Harrington, the founders of the Passionistas Project, and we're going to talk about the lessons we've learned on our own personal journeys to follow our passions and find our purpose. While we always had the follow your passions part down pat, we've had a long and winding road to discovering our purpose. But we're so grateful that we did, and most importantly, that we did it together.
In case you haven't figured it out yet, we're sisters. And that's the key to this whole story, because it's what led us to creating the Passionistas Project, an inclusive sisterhood where passion-driven women come to get support, find their purpose, and feel empowered to transform their lives and change the world. We do this through our online community, podcast, annual Power of Passionistas Summit, courses, masterminds, networking events, and much more.
Over the years, we've created a feminist family tree of women business owners, artisans, activists, and more who are joining our mission to build a worldwide sisterhood of women supporting women. We believe that all women have the right to achieve success, however they define it, by having the same equal opportunities as men in terms of business development, personal growth, and social impact. So we've created a destination where our sisterhood of passionistas can easily access reliable resources, find funding, and build community.
And we know that there's power in sisterhood and following your passions. This was ingrained in us from the moment we were born into a family of artists, musicians, and socially conscious dreamers in the small town of Braintree, Massachusetts. In our house, it would have been considered unusual not to pursue your dreams.
Our mother and father met in art school. Our dad went on to start his own advertising agency, and his main client was Foster Grant Sunglasses. Our mom studied to be an art teacher before having 5 children and becoming a full-time mom and part-time substitute teacher at our grammar school.
They built the perfect middle-class 70s home for us. We were surrounded by creativity. Our siblings were our playmates and best friends. We are among the lucky ones who had a built-in support system from day one. But even though we had a successful business career, our dad never got over his dream of being a cartoonist.
Had our mom been born in a different time, she would have been the female Indiana Jones, traveling the world for her next archaeological adventure. So we learned 3 lessons early on. 1, your creativity is your greatest strength. 2, always follow your passions. And 3, find your people and prioritize those relationships. For our part, our fervor for pop culture led us to careers in the entertainment industry. I quickly rose up the ranks to become vice president of post-production and visual effects for over 250 feature films at Warner Brothers, working on blockbuster movies like The Matrix and the Harry Potter franchise. Nancy founded her own graphic design firm and had a successful theater company in Boston before joining me in Hollywood and working on Academy Award ad campaigns for Miramax. A lot of what you hear about Hollywood is true, as it is in all big businesses. It's a very competitive, male-dominated world. Although we found success and moved up through the ranks, looking back on it now, we see how we were held back in some ways by the patriarchal system. For my part, I was often the only woman in high-level meetings. I fit into the boys' club by doing my best to shed myself of any reminder that I was the girl in the room and trying to just be one of the guys.
In college, I was on a fast track for a high-powered career in a top-level advertising agency after overseeing a student-run ad agency and getting a scholarship from the Ad Club of Boston. But I never quite felt comfortable going that route. So for the majority of my career, I have either worked as a freelance designer, selecting the clients I choose to work with, or aligning myself with close family and friends. I managed to avoid the boys' club altogether. That is, until the day I got a job working at an ad agency, helping Miramax win Oscars. I got a healthy dose of the boys' club and quickly wanted out. We had our dream jobs. We were honing our creative skills at the highest levels. We were following our passion for pop culture. But the universe was giving us a not so gentle reminder that we had forgotten one of the most important rules we learned as children. Find your people and prioritize those relationships. We're lucky because, like we said, we were born with our people, and there's never been anyone I trust more than Amy, and vice versa.
With Nancy's realization that she didn't want to work for somebody else and my political shakeup finally happening, we decided it was time for a fresh start. So we joined hands Thelma and Louise style and drove off on a new adventure together. We'll be honest, the road was a little bumpy at times. We didn't know where we were headed and sometimes where the next paycheck would come from, but we had each other. Our sisterhood got us through the hard times.
It was during this time that we learned our 4th most important lesson. Passions can change. What drives you one day may not be the thing that gets you going the next. And that's not only okay, it's what keeps life interesting. We stumbled upon our new passion when we were working for a pop culture website, when we were asked to go to a television show taping to interview not one, but 4 Cassidy brothers. We had never done an interview, and there we were on the Universal backlot with a group of bloggers talking with David, Sean, Patrick, and Ryan about their TV show, Ruby's Rockets.
When the website shut down, a friend at the Television Academy, which is the people who do the Emmy Awards, hired us to be their go-to interview team for red carpets. That led us to conducting archival interviews for the Television Academy Foundation. Our client list expanded to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, where we conducted and or produced interviews with musicians like Ann Wilson from Heart and Mick Jagger. Helping these people tell their stories became our passion. And the fact that we were together, meeting the stars we admired as little girls, made it even more fun.
We loved what we were doing, conducting interviews with pop culture icons and covering pop culture from a positive perspective. But in 2016, the world started to change. We got a new president, and the Me Too and Time's Up movements were in full swing. The brave women who were coming forward led us to lesson 5. Passion is more meaningful when you find your purpose. With over 1,500 interviews under our belts, we decided to use our skills as celebrity interviewers to give a platform to women who were following their passions and joining forces in the fight for equality for all to tell their own unfiltered stories on the Passionistas Project podcast. We were still satisfying our passion for interviewing and storytelling, but we were on a mission to spotlight emerging entrepreneurs, artisans, activists, and more, who are trailblazers and cutting-edge thought leaders, from a street artist to a chi entrepreneur, a Black Lives Matter attorney to an auctioneer. And the deeper we dove into these stories, the more we realized that this was a critical mission.
The more we connected with women, especially the underrepresented ones like women over 50 and women from the AAPI, Black, Disability, Indigenous, Latinx, and LGBTQIA+ communities, the more we realize just how many battles women are truly fighting. Here are some surprising stats. According to a survey commissioned for the U.S. Index Report by YouGov and Perry Undum, only 1/3 of Americans think it's a good time to be a woman. Most Americans say that gender inequality is persistent. 66% believe there is not full equality for women in work, life, and politics.
While we could relate to a lot of this, there was one stat that we were lucky enough not to connect with. Recent studies show that 72% of women feel lonely sometimes. Women who experience social isolation and lack of social support may be at a higher risk for poor mental health outcomes such as anxiety and depression. Hearing that is just another reminder of how blessed we are. But we know so many women going it on their own, entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, women seeking their purpose, activists, and more, who are out there doing it all on their own. They often tell us they wish they had what we have. So we created a space for them to join our sisterhood, where trust, acceptance, and support are the cornerstones of our community.
By joining, these women become part of our family. We provide the tools they need to thrive in 3 key pillars: business development, personal growth, and social impact. 74% of women say they're worried about the mental state of their female friends. As a result, mental health is the #1 well-being issue on women's minds.
These sad realities played a part in us starting our online sisterhood and passing on lesson number 6. We are stronger together. So we are welcoming everyone into our sisterhood.
We started this company to shine a spotlight on other women and never expected to reap so many benefits ourselves, which is how we discovered lesson number 7. Passionate and purposeful women provide the best support. Thanks to the community we've created, we have so many women who have our backs, will show up for us when we need them, will offer an introduction that might help us further our mission, and who make us laugh when we need it. And they don't get uncomfortable when we need to cry a little bit. And even cooler, we now see that these women are showing up for each other.
This is the power of Passionistas, and these connections are being forged in our community every day. There's no greater payoff to finding our purpose than helping women connect, grow, and find their own purpose. After all, when one of us succeeds, we all win. We followed our passions and found our purpose by embracing these simple lessons we've learned throughout our journey. So just to recap, 1, your creativity is your greatest strength. 2, always follow your passions. 3, find your people and prioritize those relationships. 4, passions can change. 5, passion is more meaningful when you find your purpose. 6, we are stronger together. And 7, passionate and purposeful women provide the best support.
We really appreciate Julie and all of you welcoming us here today and for your time. We know how valuable it is. We'd like to connect with each of you, learn how we can be of support to you, connect you with other women, and welcome you into the Passionistas Project Sisterhood. We really hope you'll join us in leveling the playing field for all women. And we truly believe that together we can change the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Can't wait to share with you. I want to start today, actually, by sharing with you a story from college. No, not that story from college. We'll save that for another day. No, this is a story from my third year, actually, right around that time when everybody is making all of those big plans. They're really kind of finalizing their major. What are they going to do with the rest of their lives? What career paths are they really going to take? Making all those big decisions. And I was really in a place, and I know a lot of people get to this place. I know I wasn't alone, but I was really in a place where I felt like a lot of my friends had everything figured out. Like they came to college with a plan. They had everything figured out. They had a plan. And really, they were just sort of at the point of executing that plan. I had no plan. So I was really in limbo at this point. And one day I remember having this incredible vision, just absolutely incredible. I could see myself, and not just see myself, I could feel myself as this super high-powered, very successful international business major, like businesswoman, sorry. I was jet setting around the world, traveling on private jets and in first class with all the designer clothes, the Manolo Blahnik shoes, all the things. So I ran to the registrar and registered for Accounting 101. And I barely passed that semester. And I'm pretty sure I only passed because I was also the professor's housekeeper. Needless to say, I wasn't an accounting major. I decided based on that, based on what I saw everybody around me doing. Most of my friends were education majors. A number of them were engaged to their college sweethearts at this point, or were close to it. And so I decided the most logical thing was to do the same. So I stuffed that vision down, declared my education and Spanish major, got engaged and married to my college sweetheart, and we built the perfect little picket fence life in the suburbs. We got the house, the fence, the dog, the kids, the minivan, all the things. And everything was fine until it wasn't. We live in a time right now where there's this huge emphasis on personal development and self-care, like all this empowerment over our lives, right? Taking care of our mental health, taking care of our physical health, empowerment about living your life the way you want. We see it everywhere. And yet, according to a Harris poll that was published on time.com in 2017, so pre-pandemic, only 30% of Americans could actually report or did actually report that they were happy. Now, ironically enough, I happened to be listening to a podcast just the other day, and they threw out a number that was closer to like 12%. I don't know which number is more accurate. I did not fact check the podcast yet. Either way, with all of this talk about taking control of our lives and caring for ourselves, why are so few of us happy? It's because we spend so much time, energy, our precious resources creating and enduring situations and experiences that might be wonderful for other people, but for us are fine. There's nothing particularly wrong with fine. In some instances, it might be all we have. It might be, and that's okay. But as a whole, our lives, you deserve epic. You deserve epic. Fast forward to 2018, almost 25 years after I had had that vision. I was 22 years deep into a successful career that I was really good at, but that I had never really wanted. Then, one day, I said enough. And I jumped headfirst out of that career. On a cold, dreary January day in Minnesota, I submitted my resignation that was going to be effective come June with absolutely no safety net and no clue about what I actually wanted, which means, of course, I had no clue how to acquire what I wanted because I didn't even know what I wanted. All I knew was that I wanted out. I needed out. I've learned a ton. I've had mentors and coaches. I've attended workshops. I've tried every free 10 easy steps to change, 10 easy steps to start. I've tried them all. And I can say with 100% certainty that the single thing that has made the greatest impact in finding my purpose is gaining clarity and creating a vision. Think of it like this. If you need directions from your phone or your GPS, you can't say, hey, GPS, I need directions away from my current location. That doesn't work. She can't do that. We need to give her a final destination. We need to tell her where we want to go. When we do, we get an incredible amount of information from her. We get super clear directions. We get choice of routes. We get which route is the longest, which one might be the most miles, but is still the fastest, which one has the most amount of detours. We get all of this information. And actually, we even also get usually an estimated arrival time. We get so much. And then we get turn-by-turn instructions on how to get there. And a side note, once we give her that destination, we trust her. We trust those directions, right? We trust her and we listen. We don't second guess. So how do we get that clarity? How do we find it? Because most of us, when we do get that extreme point, I should say, of frustration in our life, in our business, when someone asks you, well, what do you want? The answer is almost always, I don't know. There's a powerful visualization exercise that I have learned that ties back into that visualization that I had back in college. Because see, what was powerful about that vision wasn't what I saw. It was the feelings that I had inside that vision. I felt powerful. I felt confident. I felt independent, and I could feel all those things. When we're trying to decide what we want to do, what we need, when we're making these big decisions, when we're moving through change, when we're seeking purpose and seeking all these things, we have to get clear on how we truly want to feel at the end of the day. Do you want a life that feels adventurous and exciting? Or do you want a life that feels calm and serene? On the daily, how do you want to feel inside your life? That's where it begins. All the things will come into play later. The things will happen. How do you want to feel? Start there. And if you need help, I'd be happy to help. Thank you so much for checking this out, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Best, and I'm so excited to join this first panel at the Purposeful You Summit. And we're going to be talking about lessons in finding your purpose. And I know that me sharing this new perspective and experience is going to provoke new possibilities for all of you, because it definitely changed my life when I began to see things really differently from a new perspective about this idea of finding purpose. But we'll get there. First, I want to share a little bit about myself, as I am not only a provoker of possibility, but I'm also a certified hypnotherapist, a writer, a speaker, a workshop facilitator, podcast host, and coach, to name a few. And I work at this intersection that I've created for myself of wellness, consciousness, creativity, and business. And it all really began in 2020 when my whole world really blew up on me, blew up in my face. And I began my path in this journey to learn more about myself, to love myself, and to overcome burnout that I had experienced in my previous workplace that didn't work out. I moved back across the world from Singapore to Canada and found myself in a place of just wondering what was next, and realizing I had this chance to go into more purposeful work or find more purpose in my life. But I really struggled. I really struggled with this overwhelm of burnout, this overwhelm of just change in the world, and so much uncertainty. So I started my business thinking, piece of cake, even though I'm burnt out, even though I'm in a new place altogether, I can do this. I've designed businesses in my previous job, and I can do it for myself, no problem. But I just kept finding myself in this loop of looking for, well, what is my purpose? How am I going to actually make a change? How am I actually going to make an impact that's going to change the world? And what does that look like for me? How will I do this? And so I started hearing about hypnosis, and it's something that little did I know then would change my life forever. I began practicing it with a practitioner who really helped me peel away all these layers of fear, of old stories. And it became such an instrumental part of my own life to really discover what my own version of conscious and intentional living could look like and feel like, that I started to see a shift in finding my purpose. And this really empowered me to find confidence, rather, in my pursuit of creative entrepreneurship, and just really trusting and reprogramming my subconscious mind to really invite in new opportunities for me to disrupt the perfectionism I was experiencing and deepen into my own spiritual practice that I really didn't prioritize before. So I'm now working with conscious and creative leaders, entrepreneurs, curious individuals to unlock their potential as well, and envision new possibilities for their work in life that really connect back to their intuition, understand their unique abilities, and strengthen their mind, intuition, body connection to take authentic action that feels good, that really truly is purposeful action. So going through what I had been through was really that driver for me to bring others these same tools, hypnosis being one of them, that would dive into a world of self-discovery and growth where they too can unlock even greater potential inside of themselves and using their subconscious mind. Part of that process really involves exploring and bringing clarity of ease to different milestones with any growth journey, because I used to think, and perhaps you do too, that finding your purpose is this destination. It felt like for me a lot of the time like this rain cloud that just like once the rain cloud goes away, I'll have clear skies and the sun will shine and I'll know exactly what my purpose is. And it felt like these rain clouds would never go away, or that my purpose was like this sunken treasure at the bottom of the ocean. And anytime I tried to dive down, I would run out of oxygen before I could like quite reach it or see it, or just like feel what it would look like to be so close. And if that's you too, I get it. I've been there, and I felt like it was like this thing I had to find for so long. So what I've made a shift with, and as well as I help, other people redefine what this looks like for them, is really starting with, what is your version of success? What does your successful life look like? What does it feel like uniquely to you? Because we as a society have lots of judgments. There's so many ways that we're conditioned from the time that we're born, with this innate knowing we have inside ourselves. Slowly over time, we're told, we can't do something, or we shouldn't talk too much, or, being too kind is going to get you in trouble, or, if you don't share, then that's also not nice. Like there's so many little things that are actually big things that we pick up over time that society tells us that we should do, how we should act, how we should show up, how we should behave, as a coworker, as a sibling, as a child, as a parent, whatever it may be. There's so many ideas that are just thrown on us that perhaps actually don't match our innate and our intuitive really ideas of what success looks like or happiness looks like for us, or how we can show up just really freely and uniquely. So this is something that I began to strip away. And it's a lot of the things that I also do, with clients as well. But it's really about creating an experience of living purposefully, for showing up purposefully in a way that really allows you to not feel like purpose is something that you need to keep searching for, but it's something that you can live with, something that really, truly is something that is deep inside of you. This invitation that I want to extend to you as well is to perhaps see purpose as something other than something you need to search for, something that is embodied within your heart, your soul. And each of us has, a purpose tied to our souls. And we all know what this thing was. But as I mentioned, we can lose that over time. So something that I want to invite you to do right now is just take a moment here to just simply close your eyes for a moment and think about, if you could show up more purposefully from the heart each and every day, what would that mean for you as a purposeful person? You don't even need to think about what it would look like, how you would do that, what it is, but just perhaps connecting to your heart for a moment. You might even want to put your hands on your chest over your heart, closing your eyes, taking that deep breath. What if you could simply show up with more purpose, more purposefully each and every day in the way that you care for yourself, the way you show up in your work, your relationships? Perhaps there's new boundaries there that will allow you to live more purposefully. Maybe it's giving and receiving love in a different way. And you can keep your eyes closed if it's feeling good, or you can open them, whatever you'd like. But just having a moment to really stop and think and pause there for a moment is something that I do quite often, because in my world, as I continue to transform how I work, what I do in my work, the why has always remained the same. And it took me a while to really realize, although this is changing from day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, how I show up in my work, in my life, in my relationships, that I used to spend a lot of energy searching and searching and searching. And I needed to let go of this idea that my purpose was attached to what I do or how I do it, rather than why. And I can tell you why I do what I do. And it's to bring the balance of fun and intention and ease to my everyday life, so I'm able to live authentically and freely and have space to support others in doing the same. Doesn't that sound really easy? It sounds really simple. It sounds really free. And that's a big value of mine, is really looking at freedom and redefining what that means for me. And I'm constantly doing that in my work, whether it's facilitating wellness workshops and group hypnosis experiences, or working privately with clients, whether it's creating hypnosis audios or scripts for other people so that they can share different meditations with their people, whether it's collaborating with other practitioners or brands or coaches, whether it's writing projects to collaborate in a book. I have a few Amazon bestseller books that I never imagined being possible a year ago. And I think the key that I really want to let this sink in for you as well is that, again, it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. All of these things that I transform into within my work and my life have always come from the heart. And I found them by trusting in my heart, trusting in my purpose of saying yes to the things that are fun, that feel intentional and easeful. And you can even allow this little statement that you create for yourself, which I encourage you to do, of, what is your purpose, or how it would look like to show up more purposefully, rather, as I mentioned. Let that be this anchor that allows you to also make decisions, whether it be in your personal life, your relationships, when it comes to prioritizing yourself. For me, I often check in and think, okay, I have, this door has opened, or I see the shiny object over here. Should I go for it? And it's like, I got to check in for a moment. Will this allow me to show up purposefully? Will it allow me to bring the balance of fun, intention, and ease to my everyday life, so I'm able to live authentically and freely and have space to support others in doing the same? So take a moment after this and just think about, what is it that you value? And when you look at those values, know that they come from this purpose. How can you show these values in your everyday life? How can you show up more purposefully in your everyday life instead of looking for this golden nugget? You have the golden nuggets right in front of you. They're already within you. So just take a moment anytime you need to just really check in and think about how you can show up more purposefully.
Hello, I'm Nicole Fredericks Jackson, the owner and founder of Leader Development Partners, where I help improve how leaders interact, influence, and impact others at work so they succeed and also their business prospers. Thank you so much, Julie, for having me here today. I've had many lessons in finding purpose, and I hope that what I share today will help you if you are struggling with purpose. Let me start with this premise. Purpose is formed when you create a foundation of authenticity, awareness, and knowledge of who you are, what you value, and taking stock of really a lot of those micro moments. See, burnout became my reality 20 years into my law and higher ed career, and it forced me to take a journey through what felt elusive at the time: purpose. Setting the stage for my journey is that my career wasn't formed on a foundation of authenticity to who I was, became, and am. For nearly 20 years, I built a fort around me to protect myself. Eventually, that fort sustained so much pressure that it started to give way, sending me on a personal journey, and some might say a midlife crisis. The fort I built started to sustain significant pressure in 2012 when my son was born. He wasn't a part of my initial plan, but the universe works in ways I'll never fully understand. My love for my son is beyond words, and he is a blessing that I didn't realize I needed. He changed me in ways I didn't expect, while at the same time forcing me to start the journey towards taking ownership of choice, daily action, and leaning into who I authentically am at my core. To that point, career success was my focus. Dare I say my purpose, or so I thought. Achieve more, do more. I was the first in my family to attend college. I grew up in a home rife with financial turmoil. I swore I'd do everything possible to create a financially stable future. So I went to college and then directly to law school. I chose law based on, well, the most authentic reasons possible that I had a crush on a boy and I was going to law school. Well, he was going to law school and I wanted to belong as part of something. I wanted to make money so I'd never have to live the way I did it as a kid. Well, nothing became of that crush. And through the years, I learned that attorneys really don't make as much money as they lead you to believe on TV, but it was a stable career. As I entered my legal career, I heard over and over that purpose came from your career. They said it was a vocation. My identity became tied up in being successful in my career, and if I wasn't successful, I was living without purpose, or so I thought. When I hit roadblocks and detours in my career, it took its toll on me. Every time something didn't go perfectly, I viewed it as a failure. I was super hard on myself, and dare I say, I wasn't really pleasant to be around in that moment. And I'd then start my search all over again for purpose and meaning in my work. Maybe it was the job, maybe it was the people. It really turned out it was me. From the outside, it looked like I had a successful career, but I never felt like I fully belonged in it. And I didn't fit in the field the way I wanted to, but I chose the area because I wanted to belong. I loved pieces of it, but it never felt authentic to me. I wasn't allowed to think the way I wanted to say what was true for me. And in fact, growing up, I've always wanted to run a business, but I ignored that because I was told I needed to have a stable career. I ignored the sign that I wasn't on my path. Then in 2012, as I mentioned, my son was born, and I found myself being really negative about everything. I didn't like my work. I wouldn't say I enjoyed staying home and just being a mom at home. And I found out that because I was downsized at the time and I was part-time, I got to be a stay-at-home mom, and I was really disappointed in myself for not liking it as much as I did because I had this amazing human in my life. I was finding fault in a lot of things, including the home that I lived in and just life. I was really a pill. I'd basically a picket light fence, and there I was, not being as happy as I could be. And it wore on me. But I remember standing in our home and feeling like, okay, just give up on the dream of having a career you like, one with purpose, and just survive. And then my dad died really suddenly in 2016, and my world was rocked. And that's when everything really broke loose for me. My dad died with a lot of regret. And then someone posed this question to me without knowing the backstory of what I just shared with you. When you're sitting on the edge of your bed on your final day on earth and you reflect on your life, what will you regret? Wow. Throwing away today in unhappiness, not being present with my family, and working on a job that didn't fit really who I was. So on the recommendation of a friend, I picked up the book, Playing the Matrix. Really silly book. But whether you believe in manifesting your future, this book did change my life, my perspective, and made me embark really on purpose. It was a New Year's trip when I finally read that book. And it was like reading these things that really lit me up. And I wrote, I choose happiness. I didn't really realize it then, but this moment changed my life forever. My purpose was not outside of me. It wasn't to be found. It wasn't to be lived. It was an inside journey, based on leaning into daily choices. It started with a morning practice of gratitude and just really reflecting. Initially, I really had to force myself to find the good in life. I had to choose to look through a lens of gratitude, and it was really hard. But it was simple things like, I'm grateful for the warm coffee made this morning and every morning by my husband. I'm thankful for this home that shelters me in these cold sub-zero temperatures of Minnesota. I'm thankful for a job that provides for my family and for me. I'm grateful to be able to spend evenings with my son. It was in these micro moments, based on micro habits, that I realized my purpose didn't come from my career. It came from within. It came from being grateful and in service to others, and that others could be my family. My career and my job paid for experiences with my son, including travel, and it made it possible to give financially to community organizations that really fit with my values. A key lesson came when I admitted that I was on the wrong course in my career, and I owned that I had a choice. No one else was to blame. I was where I was based on choice. And if I wanted to be authentic to who I was, I had to make that call, even if it was uncomfortable. Once I learned this lesson, it set me on a course to follow my heart and lean into owning my own business. I left my job and started a legal consulting business, as well as leader development partners. After giving my notice, it was so interesting because people asked, "Are you okay?" To which I responded with conviction, "I'm more than okay. I'm making an intentional choice, creating a life by design, not by default. And as a result, I'm reconnecting with who I am and the impact I want to make in my life." There is so much more to this story that I could unpack, but time is limited here. I leave you with this. If you are struggling, connect with purpose. Start with small, intentional choices. Ask what matters in this moment. Maybe your purpose is in that moment, making a difference by holding the door for someone or doing something kind that really brightens their day. That sometimes is your purpose for that moment. Purpose is something to lean into daily, and it shifts from day to day. It doesn't have to be big and grand. For me, I was looking through windows to find purpose, when indeed the purpose was actually inside of me to lean into daily through deliberate choices that were authentic to who I am. This is my story. What is yours? What are the small micro moments you can say matter in this moment? Purpose doesn't have to be big and audacious, and it can change. It's fluid, as I've said. Please come find me over on LinkedIn, where you'll find me as Nicole Fredericks Jackson. I love sharing leadership tidbits that focus on growing yourself and stepping into your full potential as you navigate the work and world. Wishing you all a wonderful and amazing day, and take time. Don't rush through purpose. You'll find it, and find it just in this moment. Where can you make a difference? Thank you for having me.
Saludos and greetings to all. My name is Luz Nazario. I'm coming to you from the beautiful magic city of Miami, Florida. So before I start, allow me to tell you about who I am and what I do. I am a veteran educator of 28 plus years, impacting the future game changers today. I am the founder and creator of Neda's Coquito. Coquito means little coconut in Spanish. However, coquito is a beverage native to Puerto Rico that is typically reserved for the Christmas holidays. Every family has their own twist to this standard recipe. My grandmother even has her own recipe that I will share with you later, so stay tuned. My recipe, however, is not hers, hence Neda's, which means no es de abuela. This is not grandma's recipe. And what I do with coquito is share my memories and culture with you, friends and family, and I strive to create community. Today, I have the opportunity to share with you some of the lessons I have experienced in finding my purpose within community. I can only share with you my experience and hope that it offers some insight or provides some motivation for you to identify your unique purpose. At the end of this talk, I want you to know and be encouraged that in the face of struggle, your purpose can take you to the next level of creating the community you desire. As in life, these lessons are ongoing, and on occasions, it seems my purpose shifts, but stays the same. The dilemma I think we all face in answering the questions: what is my purpose? What am I here for? How do I even find my purpose? I think it has to deal with mindset. So let me tell you, several years ago, I saw the book Purpose Driven Life by Dr. Rick Warren. You've probably heard of it. I started to read it with my church's women Bible group. Um, and I was so into this book because I wanted to find out what was my God-given purpose. I was going through so many issues personally, professionally, socially. I had no idea who I was nor who I wanted to be for that matter. But, part of the journey was identifying my love language. I didn't even know that was a thing. Love language. What? I thought I love you was enough language and it covered all the bases and it was easy to understand. My love languages, it turned out as a result of this study, are acts of service and quality time. I enjoy being around other people. I enjoy helping others and getting to spend time with others over a meal, cup of coffee, or just kicking back. Nothing fancy. So, as I read this book and spoke with other women and started praying for clarity, I began to understand that part of my purpose was to be of service. I was excited during this time of the journey, identifying my purpose, of finding what my purpose was. One of the ladies told me, "You are good at creating community." I was like, yeah, really? I thought so. Part of this was, we were challenged to put our purpose, part of the study was to put our purpose into practice. I did not, however, act on that right away because all of a sudden I didn't want to have people looking at me fail or be rejected. My insecurity and anxiety kicked in. All I could hear in my head was abort, abort. Where's the nearest exit? I had to be helped down from the figurative ledge by my girlfriends, my friends. I gathered my thoughts, right? So, I gathered my thoughts. I prayed about it and adjusted my mindset to growth. This was all before starting my small business. This journey, however, factors into the inception and conception and growth of Nedas Coquito today. Starting Nedas Coquito was an act of love that started in December 2016. You may ask yourself, how can making coquito be an act of love? Well, my little family of four, we encountered a problem that month, which would make it difficult and the upcoming holidays difficult to enjoy. But I wholeheartedly believe that God always provides a way. It may not always show up how we think it should, but it does show up. The problem was that we had more December than we had cash, and the next pay period was days away. It was very scary for me because we had a problem that required an immediate solution for my family. My husband and I, we brainstormed. We were, talking. We're going back and forth. And how could we solve this problem without bringing in our extended family? The conversation ended without a solution. He went to bed. I stayed awake. I am just a crafty person, and that's part of my stress reliever. I make things, I create things, and I started to think maybe I can make something and hopefully it'll fill that need. I looked through my pantry and found the ingredients to make coquito, recalling the recipe that my mother and abuela made during my childhood. Christmas memories. I mean, these are memories that are filled with love, joy, and yumminess. my creative juices started flowing. I looked around, found some glass bottles that I had recycled. I pulled out the blender, put it on the counter, cleaned it up, opened up the drawers, pulled out the can opener, measuring spoons, cups. The spices were also on the counter with a bottle of rum. Now, let me side note, I am not a drinker, okay? But that rum was there, I guess, from something previously, which up to this date, I can't even remember what it was. But I dare say that it was way past 2 years old, so almost an añejo rum. Anyway, once all the supplies were on the counter, I looked at them. I said a prayer up. I told God what was going on, what I needed. Mind you, listen, I believe God knows everything. So I was being redundant, but what the heck? Put it out there again. I asked for his blessings, courage, and provision. So, I boiled some water to clean the bottles. I opened up each can, poured the liquids, spices, rum into the blender, and pressed the on button. I love the whirring of the blender and the gentle aroma of the ingredients blending. I mean, talk about triggering memories. That night, I made 5 bottles. The bottles were different sizes. I started to text my community, my friends, as I shared my plan and asked for their support. Those friends are loved and hold a treasure place in my heart till today. After the first year, I reflected on how to perpetuate this act of service and grow my purpose. I love my family dearly. I love that I was able to provide for my family so we could spend time making memories. Nedas Coquito was a solution to a problem. When you know there's a need, I believe your action to meet that need is an act of unconditional love, which in turn strengthens purpose. So this takes me to share with you how I continue to grow Nedas Coquito through my purpose of creating community. When I turned 50 in December 2020, I got COVID. I had to leave my home to quarantine. It was the 4th year of my business. I already had orders coming in and some pending. I started to panic. I was going to be out. Okay, I was going to be out for 10 to 14 days. And I was thinking, how am I going to fulfill those orders? Remember, I believe in the power of prayers. I called my community, my intimate community, my mom, my sister, and some girlfriends. I shared with them my concerns about the business and asked them to join me in prayer. I listened to praise and worship music during this time. I felt comfort and confidence that this time in quarantine, I would not let Nedas go. I would fight for her and get her growing. So how would I achieve this, right? So I am talking about community. But mind you, we are in a pandemic. Where? So I went to the little bit of community I had. I started with my family and friends. I started asking them questions and, I turned to the interwebs. They were telling me about people on the internet that they were connecting with. So, I was looking for people that were getting together online, virtual meetups, support groups, etc., etc. I started following people via social media that were doing the things that I was doing or the things that I wanted to do. I would listen to their IG lives, stories, and watch their posts whenever they made suggestions, offered up tips, hacks, and so one day I heard this lady talking about this new social media platform, this new app, Clubhouse. I had to get this and get into the rooms where things were happening as I understood the purpose and function of Clubhouse. I downloaded the app. I was waitlisted. I didn't want to wait. So I reached out to my community. I thought of people that I knew are like, this person has this app. I went to one of my online connections from Latina Meetup, Danais Canaverino, who became my mentor and friend. I knew she had to be on the app and asked her for an invite. She gave me an invite. I logged on and started exploring. You see, I am a curious person by nature, perhaps to my benefit or detriment, depends on who you ask. But I wanted to make sure that I was in the right places, getting help and answers. I started meeting people and making connections and building community. The great thing that arose from making connection connections was that I learned to continue. I learned more about my purpose, about it. I was creating and improving and sharing. I went into different clubs and rooms, taking copious notes and asking questions and looking for ways to support others. It was in Amigos Max, which is the largest Latinx club house, on the app, it's to say. And this is where I found small business friends. It became a repeat cycle and still is. I was walking in my purpose, sharing my memories via the goodness of coquito and creating the yumminess. It's just, it was so good to be sharing this with other people. You need to know that in this process, I was not dropping coins to make these connections and getting this information. Now, let me just tell you that, I did not have the budget for that, but I was curious and I like meeting and talking with people. I was showing up because as I've heard, and you probably have as well. And as the way I understand it, consistent action gets you traction. I was starting to spend time with people that inspire me, right? So, what was this? How did this look? For example, if I wanted to test out new flavors, all I had to do was ask my community from Latina Meetup, Amigos, my job, other areas, and they would answer the call. I would send the flavors, and they responded immediately with their reviews, suggestions, and comments to help me make my product, Neda's Coquito, better. Additionally, I needed accountability and encouragement on a regular basis. There was always someone pointing me in the right direction and providing tips as well as support. I, in turn, reciprocated in the right direction, providing tips as well as support. It is important to be present and give as well as receive because I feel that it allows us to reflect on our loves, our fears, what creates that fuel we need because it is the why behind things. Another time I was looking for a coach. I asked around and tapped into my community. Guess what? Several people connected me with other people I could speak with. I participated in a coaching pilot program that helped me get on track and connected me with other women that are small business owners that became mentors. A friend gave me coaching sessions with Julie DeLucca-Collins, an amazing woman we all know that is now a friend, mentor, sounding board, and cheerleader. One thing that I remember from Rick Warren's book, Purpose Driven Life, is that purpose is not only about me. I need to remember my purpose to the community and myself and to give in that purpose. It feels good to have a sense of purpose because you're using skills to help others in ways that matter to you. I would even dare say that it becomes a lifestyle and growth mindset, which I am living today. The main goal of finding your purpose, I believe, is to experience joy and connect with what you do every day. But sometimes unexpected things can happen, like tough days, problems, things we can't control. Even though we might think our purpose is the most important thing, there are times we need to focus on other important things in our lives to adjust, to then return to that purpose. And that is okay. I hope you feel encouraged that in the face of struggle, your purpose can take you to the next level of creating the community you desire. Thank you, Gente Bella, for your time, for listening, and allowing me to share my lessons in finding my purpose.
Hello, welcome. So I have a question for you all. When you think of purpose, what do you think of? I want you to sit with that for a second. When you think of purpose, purpose is thrown around a lot today. And what is it that you think of when you think of it? While you think, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Alexa Wilk. I'm an intuitive interior designer and a medicine woman. And I cannot wait to share with you today my take on purpose, and I believe is God's take, the universe's take. And like anything I share, it is not me sharing, it is the oneness, the source energy moving through me to share something so divine. And I hope that this is communicated to you in a way where it blows your mind in the next 15 minutes. So, when you think of purpose, you probably thought of something like, I want to be a CEO, or I want a job, or a specific career, or a specific amount of money, or a house, or a title like mom. I'm meant to be a mother. I'm meant to be a journalist. I'm meant to be a nomad, right? It is this title, this labeling. There's this something outside of us that we are. And like I said to you, in the next 15 minutes, I'm gonna blow your mind. So you ready? I hope so. Okay. So I don't know if any of you have ever watched the movie called Soul. It is a cartoon movie, I think, made by Disney. And when I watched this movie, I'm gonna give you a little like summary of it. It said a lot. It said a lot. So if anybody hasn't watched it, you should go watch it. But let's dive in. So in the movie Soul, like I said, if you haven't seen it, there's this man, a cartoon figure. He falls into a sinkhole and dies. In theory, dies. And the next scene emerges, and he is this white light, this pure being. It's his soul self, and he's being pushed or carried on this conveyor belt almost to this white light, this big holy light, right? The afterlife, right? And with all these other souls, and he's like, what are you guys all doing here? What is this? And they were like, we died. And he's like, I died. And he's so in shock because he wanted to pursue being a pianist and he never fulfilled his purpose. He died before he got on stage. And so he starts running the other way back to Earth. He's like, no, no, no. And he, along his journey, bumps into and finds another soul that's never been to Earth. And she's super free-spirited, crazy, and feminine, right? And she's never been to Earth. And somehow, I forget all the contents, but somehow they get to Earth. And when they land in their quote unquote meat suits, their bodies, right? He wants to be back in his body, but he lands in the body of his cat. And she lands in the body of what he was living as, which is this man, right? And they look at each other and they're like, like freaking out. And some student shows up at his door to knock on the door to get music lessons done by him. And the cat's trying to coach the man on how to be him, be what he saw himself as, which is this pianist. And he's trying to get him to this big gig, this big night where he is going to have the most spectacular big gig of his life, and he cannot wait. He's going to fulfill his purpose. And so this cat is trying to show him that way, show her that way, and trying to lead him. And when he gets the gig and performs it, he feels depleted, and he goes outside. And remember, he is not this man's soul. He is this feminine soul now. And so they're both bickering outside, and he sits down, the man sits down and looks up at the sky, and it's a beautiful day out. And there's this tree in front of him, and the way the sun hit and the tree, and then this one leaf started flowing down towards him, and it just glistened. And for a second, the energy and everything just fell away, and he just witnessed this beautiful sensation. And part of the movie experience was like they had this it was either on their wrist or in their soul center here, where they had to fill these parts to witness the fullness of life. And the one piece that they were missing was the purpose. And when this leaf fell down and she experienced it, she experienced her purpose. And it was so mind-blowing. The man who was in the cat could not understand how this happened, because for so long he was chasing this gig, this this big night to fulfill his quote unquote purpose of being a pianist. And the purpose was fulfilled by a leaf falling. And he couldn't understand it. And this right here is just a beautiful metaphor of life and our purpose on this earth today. And what really comes home to is that our purpose is not something outside of us. Us chasing some list, some result, some desire that we imagine outside of us, whether it's having a house, having those kids, having a specific amount of money or job, career, it's not about that. It's not about that. Our purpose is to be. It's to be here and to be fully here, to experience the fullness of life and the present moment of this life. So, what does that really mean, Alexa? What does that really mean? If you haven't really fully centered in, come home to yourself about what the present moment is, that is a journey that I want to ignite you to embark on today. The present moment is where everything that is in your highest timeline and is in full alignment for you is all in the now. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. So wanting things in the future and bringing up things in the past are taking you away from the present and what's in full alignment. And like I said, your highest source, soul calling. So I want you to think of 3 or just leave or have 3 words stick with you today. And that is love. Missed my own finger. Love, trust, and presence. And so we just touched on presence. And that is a journey. I am still discovering every day a deeper level of presence. Presence with everything, because any area we are unwilling or uncomfortable to be present in is a part of ourselves that we need to face, to ignite, to illuminate, to face the shadow within and the discomfort. All of our pains tell a story, and that story is remembering the journey that our soul has once taken. And that journey is that we've experienced or are experiencing the fullness of life. So what does the fullness of life mean? You're experiencing the fullness of life in this lifetime, but you've also experienced it in other lifetimes. You've been here before. Your soul has been here before, whether it's been here for one other lifetime or 1,200 lifetimes. Your soul has been to earth before. And it has experienced the fullness of life, whether it means that you were once a monk, whether that means you were once poor, rich, wealthy, just fully happy being a nomad, or running your own business and having 10 kids and being really burnt out. You've experienced the fullness. You've experienced being an African American to an Asian to a European to a Brazilian. You've experienced all of it. That's why when you meet somebody and you know consciously, your soul knows what they've gone through before they even explain it, you just understand that is because you remember. You didn't have to learn a certification or an education to remember, to know what people are feeling, because you understand you've done this before and you're now experiencing the fullness of this lifetime, this existence. So what is it you're moving through? What is your soul trying to show you in this lifetime? Who is placed in your life and what purpose are you here to fulfill? And that purpose is coming back to yourself and remembering who you are and finding the pieces that you weren't able to be probably in a past lifetime and finding those in this lifetime to be a greater version of yourself in this lifetime. So when I say love, trust, and presence, the universal energy is love. Trusting is trusting the universal energy. And presence is being present in what is. And so our purpose here is to feel and to be so present with the fullness of life, because at every moment it is your purpose to be here. At every moment when you're present, you're in you're in that the most highest alignment for yourself in that moment, which is your purpose. It is not one thing. It is not just speaking. It is not just writing a book. It is not being a coach. It is not being a mom, because you are more than just one thing. You can have everything. The chaos that we allude to having so much chaos is only the weight of these things that we think we have to have, but we don't really need. We're attached to all these materialistic things because we think that the success, the purpose is having these materialistic things outside of us, but it's not outside of us. It's not having the best car. It's not having the best phone. It is having the freedom within ourselves to be our fullest selves. And to be our fullest selves, we have to be able to remember, to awaken that part of ourselves. And to do that, we need to be present and be able to confront ourselves with love and be able to know that we can trust God, the universe, Mother Nature, all of your angels for its highest good. That is why we are here. That is our fullest expression. That is your purpose. So when you go about your day and you wake up in the morning, that is your purpose. Your purpose is to be excited by the sunrise, by enjoying your morning meditation, by enjoying your workout, by enjoying your lemon in water, and be fully present in that act of just being. And then move to the act of just being of service to others, which is when you are of service to others, you are taking your remembrance and serving others out of love, whether that be at a grocery store, whether that be behind a service call at a front desk, whether that be leading an entire country, and that be being a CEO of a small startup company. Your purpose is to be of service in that and to be present in that, because it lights up your soul. Follow what lights up your soul. Follow what makes you feel at home. And always embark on the fear. Always embark on the fear, because the fear is a journey to a greater version of yourself that can be free. And that's what we're all looking for, is to free ourselves so that we feel whole. And what is whole? Whole is feeling like we have a purpose. So take a deep breath into that. That was a loaded, purposeful, soul transmitted experience that I just shared with you. And I just want you to know that when you show up at your career, to your morning meditation, to your family, to your husband, to insects, to that important jury duty or a lawyer that you have, or accountant, you can be present and be in purpose in that moment. Every minute, every moment is your divine soul purpose to be in. Your purpose is not outside of you. It's not a materialistic thing. It is within you. And embarking on that means being really present and getting uncomfortable with yourself so that you can get comfortable with yourself. I hope you discover your purpose, discover that purposeful energy in the present moment, and take that journey within.
Was that not the best ever? I love the stories. I love everything that these speakers shared. And by the way, finding your purpose will create a lot of lessons. And I am so glad I got to hear from them the lessons that they got as they were exploring and searching, and again, gain practical insights. So let's stay tuned and go to the next video. The next video is our second panel. I'll see you there.